The emergency beacon pierced the darkness of space, its erratic pulse drawing the attention of Research Station Omega-17. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the signal's trajectory on her console, brow furrowed as the object hurtled toward their section of Europa's orbit. The research station wasn't equipped for combat, but something about this distress call felt different from the usual cargo ship malfunctions. Life signs are unstable but present, reported Marcus Rodriguez, the station's medical officer. Whatever's in there isn't human. His dark eyes met Sarah's across the dimly lit control room. Protocol says we should wait for military backup. Sarah's fingers hovered over the controls. The nearest military vessel was 3 days out, and the pod's occupant would be dead long before then. Since when do scientists wait for permission to make discoveries? She engaged the station's recovery systems. The pod crashed into their landing bay in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the observation window, Sarah could see it wasn't of any known human design. Its angular surface bore the scars of recent combat, and what appeared to be weapons damage had nearly torn it in half. The emergency response team approached cautiously, led by Security Chief David Kumar. When they cut through the pod's hull, they found themselves face to face with something straight out of humanity's deepest spacefaring nightmares. The creature was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with iridescent scales and multiple sets of arms. Its armor, once magnificent, was now cracked and stained with silvery blood. "It's a Crixian," David whispered, his voice tight with recognition. Everyone knew about the Crixian Empire, the militant species that had been expanding through the galaxy for centuries. They were warriors, conquerors, and this one was dying. The Crixian's eyes snapped open, revealing faceted pupils that gleamed like polished amethysts. It spoke, its translator struggling to convert its multi-tone voice into English. "End it, with honor." One of its 4 hands reached for a ceremonial blade at its waist. Sarah pushed past David's restraining arm. "No one is dying today." She activated her medical scanner, trying to make sense of the alien's physiology. "Marcus, I need you here now. And someone get me the xenobiology files from the database." The next 12 hours became a blur of desperate innovation. The Crixian's biology was unlike anything they'd encountered, but Sarah and Marcus worked tirelessly, combining their knowledge of xenobiology with pure human intuition. The rest of the station's 40-person crew cycled through, offering help where they could, bringing coffee, and monitoring the increasingly concerned messages from Earth Command. When the Crixian finally stabilized, it fixed Sarah with an unblinking stare. "I am Vaznik, war leader of the Third Fleet. Why preserve an enemy who would conquer your worlds?" "Because that's what humans do," Sarah replied, checking his vital signs. "We help first and ask questions later. Usually drives our politicians crazy." She offered a tired smile. "Besides, technically, we're not at war with the Crixian Empire. You're just a patient who needed help." Vaznik's facial scales shifted in what might have been confusion. "Your species is inefficient. In the Empire, the weak are culled. It strengthens the whole." "Funny thing about humans," Marcus chimed in, updating the medical logs. "We tend to get stronger by helping each other. Turns out, compassion is a pretty efficient survival strategy when you give it a chance." The conversation was interrupted by David's urgent entrance. "We've got a problem. Long-range sensors just picked up a Crixian battle fleet on an intercept course. They'll be here in 72 hours. Sarah looked at their patient, seeing the complex play of emotions across his alien features. "Well, Vaznik, looks like you'll get to see our inefficient methods in action. The question is, will you help us survive what's coming, or are you still hoping for that warrior's death?" Vaznik was silent for a long moment, his secondary arms flexing unconsciously. When he spoke, there was a new tone in his voice, something that might have been uncertainty. "You saved my life when your own laws commanded otherwise. Perhaps there are things about humanity that the Empire does not understand." Sarah nodded, already planning their next steps. She'd gotten into science to explore the unknown, to push the boundaries of human knowledge. Now she and her crew were about to attempt something far more ambitious, teaching one of the galaxy's most warlike species about the strength found in mercy. The station's lights dimmed as it entered night cycle, but nobody slept. They had 3 days to prevent a war, armed with nothing but human ingenuity and the wild hope that compassion could bridge the gap between worlds. Sarah looked at her tired crew and their alien patient, seeing not an impossible situation, but a chance to prove what humanity did best, turning enemies into friends, one act of kindness at a time. The research station's greenhouse became Vaznik's sanctuary during his recovery. Sarah found him there on the second morning, his massive frame hunched among the tomato vines as he studied earth plants with unexpected gentleness. His wounds were healing rapidly, but there was something else changing in the Crixian warrior, something less tangible but far more profound. In the Empire, we synthesize all sustenance, Vaznik said, watching a crew member tend to the hydroponic gardens. This, growing of food is seen as primitive. He paused, four-fingered hands carefully brushing a ripening tomato. Yet there is poetry in it. Life sustained by caring for other life. Sarah settled onto a bench nearby, noting how the rest of the crew no longer flinched when they passed their alien guest. Sometimes the old ways have wisdom we've forgotten. Humanity nearly lost this 2 centuries ago. We thought technology could replace everything natural. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Zara Patel, the station's youngest researcher. She carried a tablet displaying sensor data from T. He approaching Crixian fleet. They're moving faster than we anticipated. ETA 60 hours now. Her voice trembled slightly, but she stood her ground. Vaznik's scales darkened, a sign of distress they'd learned to recognize. War Commander Krivax leads that fleet. He is uncompromising. Even by Imperial standards. Then help us understand him, Sarah urged. You've seen how we live, how we work together. There must be a way to make him see what you've seen. Vaznik rose to his full height, towering over the humans. You do not understand. The Empire's strength comes from absolute unity of purpose. To them, I am already corrupted by exposure to your ways. Krivax will not come to talk. He comes to cleanse what he sees as a contamination. Well, he's in for a surprise, came a new voice. David Kumar entered the greenhouse, his security uniform pressed despite the late hour. Humans have a long history of being underestimated. We've got the entire station working on modifications to our shields and sensors. Even found a way to adapt some of your pod's technology. The next hours became a blur of preparation and cultural exchange. As they worked, Vaznik began sharing details about Crixian tactics and technology, information that would have earned him execution in the Empire. But with each passing hour, his loyalty seemed to shift, not through any human coercion, but through simple exposure to a different way of living. Your species is puzzling, he admitted to Sarah as they reviewed shield modifications. You have no natural defenses, no significant physical advantages. Yet you have survived and thrived. How? Marcus looked up from his medical station with a grin. We're really good at making friends. And when that doesn't work, we're even better at improvising. The truth of that statement was evident throughout the station. Engineers worked alongside botanists to convert hydroponics equipment into emergency power systems. The kitchen staff had discovered that certain cooking oils could enhance the efficiency of their shield modulators. Every crew member contributed ideas, no matter their specialty. In the Empire, each warrior knows their place, their purpose, Vaznik observed. Here, everyone seems to do everything. That's because we trust each other to try, Sarah explained. Humans learned long ago that our greatest strength isn't in our muscles or our weapons. It's in here. She tapped her temple. And in here. She placed a hand over her heart. As if to prove her point, Zara rushed in with another tablet. I think I found something. I was analyzing the quantum signature of Vaznik's translator, and there's a way we might be able to broadcast on frequencies that the Imperial fleet can't ignore. We just need to. She was cut off by a violent shudder that ran through the station. Warning klaxons blared as red emergency lights bathed everything in a crimson glow. "They're early," David's voice crackled over the comm. "Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Looks like Kryvax decided not to wait." Sarah met Vaznik's eyes, seeing her own determination reflected in those alien pupils. "Still think we're too primitive to stand a chance." For the first time since his arrival, Vaznik's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "I think, Dr. Chen, that I am about to witness why humanity has survived against all logic." He straightened to his full height, warrior's pride now tinged with something new, hope. "Shall we show the Empire what strength really means?" Throughout the station, humans rushed to battle stations that had never been meant for battle. But they moved with purpose, with unity born not from rigid hierarchy but from shared determination. They had 48 hours to prevent a war, and they would face it the human way, with ingenuity, cooperation, and the unshakable belief that compassion was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. The Kryxian warships hung in Europa's orbit like obsidian daggers, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On Research Station Omega 17's main viewport, they appeared as tears in the fabric of space itself. Sarah counted 12 ships in total, each one capable of reducing the station to atoms. "They're deploying in standard combat formation," Vaznik observed, his voice tight. "War Commander Kryvax leads from the center vessel." He stood at the command center, no longer a patient but a vital ally, his massive frame casting shadows across the tactical displays. The main communication array crackled to life, and a harsh voice filled the station. "This is War Commander Kryvax of the Imperial Fleet. You harbor a traitor and have corrupted Imperial property. Surrender the deserter Vaznik and prepare for cleansing. You have 1 hour to comply." Sarah exchanged glances with her crew. The past hours had been spent preparing for this moment, turning their research station into something that might survive what was coming. Zara's modified communications array hummed with potential, while Marcus had repurposed medical equipment into experimental shield enhancers. "Let me speak with him," Vaznik said, his secondary arms flexing with tension. "Perhaps." "No," David interrupted, checking weapon systems that had never been meant for real combat. "The moment they confirm you're alive and helping us, they'll open fire. We stick to the plan." The plan was desperate, born of human ingenuity and Vaznik's intimate knowledge of Imperial tactics. Throughout the station, crew members moved with quiet determination, each playing their part in an improvised symphony of survival. In the hydroponics bay, engineers had transformed the growth lights into a web of energy that might confuse Imperial targeting systems. The kitchen's industrial freezers had been converted into heat sinks for their overtaxed shields. Every piece of equipment, every scrap of technology had been repurposed for defense. 45 minutes remaining, the station's AI announced calmly. Sarah watched her crew work, feeling a surge of pride. Not one person had suggested surrendering Vaznik, despite knowing it might save their lives. They had adopted him as one of their own, human compassion extending beyond species barriers. "I still do not understand," Vaznik said quietly. "In your position, the Empire would sacrifice one to save many. It is logical. Efficient. Efficiency isn't everything," Sarah replied, reviewing Zara's final modifications to their communication systems. "Sometimes the strongest choice is the one that seems weakest to others." The next half-hour passed in a blur of final preparations. The station's power grid had been completely rewired, channeling energy in ways its designers had never intended. Every crew member knew their role in what was to come, their usual scientific specialties adapted to this moment of crisis. 15 minutes, the AI updated. Marcus approached with a medical tablet. "The bioresonance feedback loop is ready. If Zara's calculations are correct, it should amplify the signal through their entire fleet. And if they're not correct? David asked, though his tone held no judgment. Then we'll think of something else, Sarah said firmly. That's what humans do. The command center fell quiet as the final minutes ticked away. Sarah looked at her crew, scientists, researchers, explorers who had never trained for combat, and saw not fear, but resolve. They had chosen this path, chosen to stand by their principles even in the face of annihilation. 1 minute remaining, the AI announced. Vaznik straightened to his full height, his scales shifting through colors that reflected his internal struggle. Whatever happens, he said solemnly, know that you have shown me a kind of strength the Empire never imagined possible. Signal incoming from the Imperial flagship, Zara reported. There. The viewport blazed with sudden light as the Imperial fleet opened fire, not even waiting for their deadline to expire. But Research Station Omega-17 was ready. The modified shields flared to life, channeling energy in ways that made the laws of physics stutter. Throughout the station, jury-rigged systems engaged, each one a testament to human creativity under pressure. Sarah took a deep breath and nodded to Zara. Now we show them what humanity's really capable of. She keyed the command that would activate their desperate plan, not a weapon, but something far more powerful, the truth, broadcast in a way that not even the Empire could ignore. The battle for Research Station Omega-17 had begun. But it would be fought not with traditional weapons, but with the strongest force humans had ever discovered, the power to change minds through understanding. As energy blazed between stars, Sarah and her crew prepared to demonstrate why humanity had survived every challenge it had ever faced, not through dominance, but through the strength found in unity, compassion, and the unwavering belief that there was always another way. The first volley from the Imperial fleet struck the station's shields like a tsunami of light. But instead of shattering, the modified barriers absorbed the energy, channeling it through the repurposed systems in exactly the way Zara had predicted. Throughout the station, recycled energy pulsed through makeshift conduits, turning their attackers' strength against them. Bioresonance signal at full power, Marcus announced, his hands dancing across the medical equipment they'd converted into broadcasting arrays. Broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies. Across every Crixian ship, the signal carried not weapons data or tactical information, but something far more devastating to the Empire's rigid worldview, the truth. Every moment of Vaznik's time on the station, every instance of human compassion and cooperation, every demonstration of strength through unity, all of it transmitted directly into the Imperial fleet's communication systems. They're receiving, Zara confirmed, monitoring the data streams. The signals penetrating their shields exactly like we calculated. They can't block it without shutting down their own internal communications. War Commander Kryvax's voice boomed through the station, rage evident even through the translator, this changes nothing. Your weakness will not infect, his words cut off as the full impact of the transmission reached his bridge. Through their modified sensors, Sarah could see confusion spreading through the Imperial fleet. Warriors who had never questioned their philosophy of strength through dominance were suddenly confronted with evidence of another way. They watched their honored war leader, Vaznik, working alongside humans, witnessing their adaptability, their innovative spirit, their unwavering support for each other. Multiple ships showing power fluctuations, David reported. Their formations breaking down. Vaznik stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of Imperial tradition, and the hope of change. Kryvax. You see now what I have learned. These humans, whom we dismissed as weak, have shown me true strength. Not the strength of conquest, but the strength of unity. Of minds working together, finding solutions where we would see only obstacles. The Imperial ship's weapons remained charged, but they had ceased firing. On their bridges, warriors who had never hesitated in battle now found themselves questioning everything they had been taught about strength and weakness. Sarah watched the tactical displays, hardly daring to breathe. Keep broadcasting, she ordered. Show them everything. The next moments stretched like hours as the transmission continued. The Imperial fleet hung motionless, their sensors absorbing scene after scene of human ingenuity. They saw their enemies turn a research station into a fortress not through military might, but through cooperation and creativity. They watched their most honored warrior learn that compassion was not a weakness to be purged, but a strength to be embraced. Engineering reports shield capacity at 30%, the station's AI announced calmly. Remaining systems operating beyond designed parameters. Sarah knew they couldn't maintain their defenses much longer. The modified systems were already showing signs of strain, pushed far beyond their original specifications by human determination and improvisation. But they had to hold on. Had to give the truth time to work. Multiple ships powering down weapons, David reported suddenly. They're standing down. War Commander Kryvax's voice returned, but the rage had been replaced by something else, uncertainty. How? How can you be so strong when you spend your energy helping the weak? Because that's how we become strong, Sarah replied, her voice carrying across the void. Every person we help, every mind we open, every barrier we break down, it all makes us stronger. Not just as individuals, but as a whole. The command center fell silent as her words hung in space. Then, slowly, the Imperial ships began to power down their weapons. Not just a few, but all of them, their formation dissolving as centuries of militant philosophy gave way to a new understanding. War Commander, Vaznik said, his voice steady, let me show you what I have learned. Let me show you why the Empire's understanding of strength has been incomplete. The tension in the command center could have been cut with a knife as they waited for Kryvax's response. Everything hung in the balance, not just the survival of the station, but the possibility of a fundamental change in one of the galaxy's most warlike cultures. Finally, Kryvax spoke, his words carrying the weight of a civilization on the brink of transformation. Perhaps there are things the Empire needs to learn. Throughout Research Station Omega-17, humans who had prepared for death now found themselves on the brink of something far more powerful, the chance to teach one of their greatest potential enemies about the true nature of strength. Sarah looked at her crew, scientists turned warriors, researchers turned diplomats, and saw the future beginning to change, all because they had chosen compassion over fear. The battle was ending, but the real work was just beginning. And humanity, as always, was ready to lead the way. 3 months after the standoff at Europa, Research Station Omega-17 had changed beyond recognition. Where once a single research facility stood, now a sprawling complex of interconnected structures stretched across the moon's icy surface. Crixian architecture blended seamlessly with human design, creating something entirely new, much like the society that was beginning to emerge. Sarah watched from the station's new observation dome as a Crixian shuttle docked alongside human vessels. The sight no longer drew stares from the crew. If anything, the massive warriors had become a common sight, their curiosity about human ways matched only by humanity's eagerness to learn from them. The latest reports from the Empire are encouraging, Vaznik said, joining her at the viewport. He wore modified station gear now, though his warriors' bearing remained. 17 more battle fleets have requested cultural exchange programs. Sarah smiled, remembering how it had all started with a single act of compassion. And how many research stations have volunteered to host them? All of them. Vaznik's scales shifted in what they now recognized as amusement. Your species' capacity for adaptation continues to astound the Imperial Council. They cannot understand how humans transform enemies into allies so easily. The station hummed with activity around them. In the expanded hydroponics bay, Crixian agricultural experts worked alongside human botanists, combining imperial efficiency with Earth's natural growing methods. The medical bay had become a center for groundbreaking xenobiology research, with Marcus leading teams that blended human and Crixian healing techniques. War Commander Kryvax's latest transmission arrived, David reported, approaching with a data pad. The security chief now coordinated with Imperial forces to protect the growing number of joint human Crixian facilities. He's requesting permission to establish a permanent diplomatic presence here. The same warrior who wanted to destroy us 3 months ago now wants to learn from us, Sarah mused. If that's not a testament to human influence, I don't know what is. Zara rushed past, her arms full of modified sensor equipment. A group of young Crixian engineers followed, their traditional warrior garb now adorned with research station patches. Dr. Chen. The quantum communication experiments are showing amazing results. The Crixian power matrices work perfectly with our transmission algorithms. The success of Research Station Omega-17 had sparked a revolution throughout human space. Every research facility, every colony, every outpost had stories of their own now, tales of warriors learning to grow food, of scientists teaching battle-hardened veterans to explore rather than conquer, of two species discovering that their differences made them stronger together. The Imperial Council has officially renamed our conflict philosophy, Vaznik announced, his voice carrying a hint of pride. We no longer seek strength through dominance, but strength through understanding. Some say it is a weak path. He straightened to his full height. I say they have not truly understood strength at all. Sarah thought about how far they'd come. The station that had once been a simple research facility had become a symbol of something greater, proof that humanity's greatest weapon had always been its capacity for compassion, its ability to see potential allies where others saw only enemies. We've received another 100 applications from human scientists wanting to transfer here, Marcus added, joining them. And twice that many from Imperial researchers. We're going to need a bigger station. Then we'll build one, Sarah said simply. Together. As if to emphasize her point, a new ship appeared in orbit, massive, elegant, and unlike anything either species had created before. It was the first of its kind, a vessel designed and built through human-Crixian cooperation. Its hull bore markings in both languages, and its mission was neither conquest nor pure research, but a combination of both species' strongest traits. The Empire once sought to spread across the galaxy through force, Vaznik observed, watching the ship settle into orbit. Now we spread through understanding, through learning, through. He paused, still getting used to the word, friendship. Sarah looked at her expanded crew, human and Crixian working side by side, each bringing their own strengths to create something greater than either could achieve alone. This was humanity's true power, not the ability to win wars, but the ability to make them unnecessary. You know, she said, someone once asked me why humans explore space, why we push so hard to reach the stars when it's easier to stay safe on Earth. She gestured to the scene before them, the mingled crews, the combined technologies, the shared purpose that had grown from a single act of mercy. This is why. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to learn, to grow, and to show the galaxy that the strongest force in the universe isn't weapons or armies. It's compassion, Vaznik finished, understanding in his eyes. As another shuttle docked, bringing more eager minds ready to learn from each other, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had shown the galaxy a different kind of strength, and the ripples of that lesson would spread across the stars, one act of kindness at a time. The future they were building wasn't perfect, but it was better than anything either species could have created alone. And that, perhaps, was humanity's greatest victory of all.